mean, you've been in almost 24 features, now in fitness magazines. And so there's this whole other life that you've lived, right? It's sort of almost parallel to and beyond the politics. Now it's in the fitness industry, which is which is an it's a crazy industry in and of itself. So now we're jumping through all these things, like you're at the White House, you're working for the governor, and now you're in the fitness industry, and you're not just in the industry, and you just didn't do a photo shoot. You've been in many of them, and you're a celebrity, and people know about you, and not because you get on stage and you compete with the freaks, right? Like, and when I say that, I mean that with air quotes, because that is a very, very small piece of the larger community. It gets a lot of attention, right? And there's money in it, and and that's why. But it is a very, very small piece of
a very niche part of
the whole. But going back to the Arnold thing, that's how he kind of made his name. He was that freaky guy.
And to be honest, that was never his ultimate goal.
Interesting.
People don't really, I think, and I don't tell his story, but being a young boy in Austria, he knew he wanted to get the hell out of there, for whatever his reasons. He explains it in his books and all that, but he knew he wanted to get out. And so his avenue was through his fitness. But that was not his end goal. He wanted to become a movie star. And then through that, he learned, his parents taught him that when the currency dies and there is economy crushes,
you need
true ownership or true wealth is land ownership. And so he invested a lot of his monies from his success in land. And so I think there was an end to a mean, and that was a way that he found his ticket to the United States.
Wow. Joe Weider said, "Hey, come on board." And he was going to pay him money and take care of him. And
they don't do that stuff really anymore. So it's interesting to hear his, like, people building furniture for him, and like guys at the gym, like giving him sofas and TVs and shit to make it, to be nice. And he was a bricklayer, in LA. So like, it just is fascinating to me because it's a different community, but we can go into that. But to go back to your, I mean, yes. So I never did competitions. I never wanted to go do that route. I knew early on that there's a lot of politics involved in that. I came from a big political background. This is just in different politics, and I didn't want to get involved with it. I figured my goal that I set of being in magazines was competitive enough, and you have to be almost show ready in a men's physique way, but we can go into that later, to really be worthy of being in a magazine.
Sure.
Because you're competing against millions of guys that say, "Oh, I want to be in the magazine." People don't really get it. There's a lot of people that have way better physiques than me.
So what's the secret?
The secret is relationships.
Back to the soft skills.
Yeah. The secret is old school skills. I get asked lots of times a day, "How do I get into a magazine here? Don't I look?" The guys sending me photos of themselves, all this stuff. And I'm just like, okay, it's business. The fitness industry is a business. It's not. I don't think a lot of young guys realize that. They think, I'm going to go work out. I'm a pretty face. I got good muscles. They think they're going to get in a magazine. I'm like, do you realize how many millions of people are personal trainers or played football and have a great physique? Everyone that you see on Instagram.
Right.
And so,
which has just made it a whole other thing.
Completely oversaturated market. Right. So from a business perspective, so how you build relationships are old school skills. I would go to expos. I wouldn't go to meet Sergi Constantine.
Right.
I would go meet the Muscle and Fitness editor. I would go meet Train Magazine's editor, who I still have. I would go meet Muscle Insider in Canada.
This is the people making the decisions.
Yeah, and building relationships with them, and then you become a friend of theirs. And then when you pitch a workout or an article or whatever, they're like, sure. And so it's a matter of really old school skills. Same with supplement companies. All these big dudes walk around wanting free supplements or free. But they don't realize that you have to build a relationship first if you want to get the contract. And so, because they're getting hit every day by thousands of DMs now. Yeah. And what is it? What's the value for them to send you something besides you having big followings or whatever? Yeah. It doesn't really actually matter about that. There's now these micro influencing communities. So
a tub of protein doesn't cost them a dime. So you think this dude sent me, like a box of supplements or that.
I'm like, that's a couple of bucks, dude.
Right.
Like
if that.
So, So I guess it's the old school stuff that I've learned along the way that, I just went to the source, built a relationship, and then they stay. And they kind of, And now it's changed a little bit. So the people that are trying that tactic now, I think it's changed. I think people are still, it's become so saturated that I think the heads of these, the editors and these people that make decisions, CEOs of companies, they're just making their groups even smaller.
Yeah,
and
so
like, who do I trust? And who's like, they're going to their old school people that they can rely on consistently.
And those people are feeding them the people to then talk to.
Right.
Yeah.
Or if I already have that relationship, they're going to just come back to me and say, okay, you're a reliable source. I'm going to keep coming to you. So,
yeah, it's I mean, you mentioned there was a couple of things that came up there. One being, if you're in the men's physique side of things and this is what you're doing, you have to maintain a level of, I'm going to call it fitness. Let's just say you're going to have to maintain a physique
right.
that puts you in a position to be sort of on almost a moment's notice or within a few weeks, be ready for a shoot. Maybe you can talk about that lifestyle. I mean, what's the reality of that? And going back, like you just mentioned, like there's so many people out there that have amazing physiques, right? And seemingly can kind of get away with a lot, right? That meaning I still have friends to this day. This was never me, and it certainly isn't me now, at 47 years old or whatever I am. But I mean, they could eat fucking Pop-Tarts and pancakes every day and still look like a comic book character. Fucking piss me off, right? Drink beers every night.
I don't know what they're taking.
Whatever else. I mean, and even some of them were still like, even on that level, if they were, it wasn't very much, not like some of the other dudes, or not at all. And still, it's like, damn,
well, there's different, obviously, body types.
Right. So there's all that. But
endos.
I guess my point is that isn't everybody.
No.
And it's definitely not fair to saddle a guy that looks great, that may have great genetics with, well, he's got great genetics. And so that's the answer.
Right.
That's what he does. And he does a lot of drugs. So some of that might be true, but I don't think it's fair to saddle somebody with that and say that is the reason. That is absolutely not 100% true. So you can't say that, but maybe you can talk about the realities of that world and what you've seen.
Yeah. I mean, I think it all depends.
What it costs you.
Yeah. I think it all depends on, how do I say it? Like what route you choose in the modeling, fitness modeling world. So like I determined my own, I didn't go with an agent. I was my own agent. I called on editors. I didn't give anybody else money.
So you determine your own value.
And I also determined my own schedule. Mm-hmm. So I could write. So what I chose to do long ago, I learned it from a couple of different guys that have been in the industry for a while. I decided to provide content and value to it, not just be a pretty face that someone hoped to pick for a shoot. So I would write a feature or write a workout and then pitch that. They would like it, and then they would shoot me for that thing.
Smart.
So other guys work for agencies and, are called at a moment's notice to go do a GNC shoot. Sure, it pays lots of money, or a different shoot, or then you have like the whole kind of like clothing model, like the Under Armour guys that stand there in the football shirts and uniforms that take the photos that, stand this way, turn left, turn right. Like it's boring as hell, but Under Armour pays thousands of dollars a day for you to just put on football clothes and look good. And so cool. But I'd rather like see one of my pieces of art or whatever come to life and fruition through me writing. So for me, I could, obviously, well, social media has another play in this, but for me, if without social media, I could prepare like 3 months for a shoot,
write your feature,
write my feature. Well, I'd already have written it or pitch the idea and then finalize it and then shoot it. But I would have to, now with social media involved, people expect you to be like your magazine
all the time
or magazine. Yeah. And I think the reality is that can really mess you up in my head. And it's affected me too sometimes. Like, then you start getting into, oh God, do I need to Photoshop this? And you think about those things and you're like, no, I want to be authentic. And so there's this whole like battle of, I know it sounds really stupid that I'm saying this, but like you want to, because you're a brand, right? People see you in a magazine, want to be like you or want to get as fit as you or like that workout. And then when they see you on your social media platform, they expect you to look like that photo. But in reality, people don't really realize that there is some, not to say smoke and mirrors behind it, but there is some editing that goes on, right?
Dude, this doesn't sound stupid to me at all. You mentioned like it's not at all. I mean, to me as a reasonable person, like I get this, but there's a huge part of our civilization that doesn't get this.
Because
they still don't get it.
No, and I think, and even I can say this, and I don't mean to, I might go out a little unconventional way, but getting ready for a photo shoot is not necessarily the healthiest thing.
I'm going to say it's probably borderline's very unhealthy. Right. However,
that's a whole nother subject.
Depends on what level you're going to. It depends on what kind of
But I mean, I'll just blanket statement this. I probably were going to get a lot of shit for it, but in order to be on a cover of a magazine, I have never seen a natural person be on the cover of a magazine.
Right.
I'll just say that.
Period.
Unless you're shooting for a natural magazine, and I don't even know if that's the case because they test in advance and they give you one. So I'll just say that all these I'm natty people out there, and they're 17 years old and ripped to hell, that's not physically possible. I'm sorry. I don't care if you're Arnold Schwarzenegger's genes. Look at Arnold. He wasn't veined out and thin pencil skin. He was well physique, but you could tell that he was natural early on.
That's a very good point.
Yeah. So I just think it's funny when these people claim I'm natty or all lifetime natural.
Yeah. I mean, you're saying that because you have the inside scoop.
Yeah. And I've seen people's full proterols that they send to their sponsors by accident and then get dropped from their sponsorship.
Oop, I said, I hit send on that.
Shit. I said, we won't mention names, but yeah. So, I mean, back to your question is, I think it depends on what you are, but there is a consistent, I think, desire for people to always stay like photo shoot ready, especially a lot of these Instagram influencers or Insta famous people, which I don't consider them famous. I just think that people use the term famous. And when people start talking I'm digressing, but when people say my fans, it bothers the hell out of me because I don't have fans. I have followers and I engage with them and people want to follow me. I'm not Tom Cruise. I'm not Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm not anybody like that. I don't have fans. I have followers. And so I think when people start to lose reality and go like, oh, my fans. And I don't even care if you're like for instance, I'll throw a name out because Daniel Bailey or Rob Bailey or Steve, he doesn't even refer to they don't refer to themselves that having fans.
Yeah.
They say followers. Like, thank you guys. Yeah. These guys are like legit good people. I know them personally, met them multiple times. We've hung out, done things like they supported me from it's like, so these people are real and they don't have. So when I see another person like
it's a business.
Yes. And so they value you as a customer, not a fan, and likely so. They're selling you products, their supplements, their clothing, their routines,
it's marketing.
Their work. Yeah, it's great. So like, I think that it's funny when I see people say, oh, my fans. I'm like, this is just feeding some delusional ego of yours. Because in reality, they're not fans, in my opinion. I mean, unless you're, Tom Cruise, then he has fans.
Yeah. And there's this constant competition for more followers, right? And
I wish they would just delete all the accounts of followers and only you would know who your followers are. I think Instagram is actually getting that. They're doing like my likes went away. I can see the likes, but nobody else can. So it's weird. Like, I think they're testing a market where
wait. So what you're saying is like, it's popping up on your,
I can click on it and see it as how many people,
but it's not actually moving the ticker.
It's not visible to you how many people like my photo.
Oh, interesting.
And they're testing it with different people. If you go on there and you look at different groups, you'll see like, oh, this person's photo had it, this one's didn't the next time. And
no shit.
It's interesting. Yeah, they're doing a test mark because I think they want to get away with all the likes.
Yeah, I don't have it. I mean, I don't play very, very strong. I don't have a very strong profile on Instagram. So,
but actually, I think the days of like millions of followers, I think actually companies and businesses want micro influencers. We don't have to go. This is a deep social media conversation, but I think people that are doing better and actually making money from social media nowadays are, besides the big names, are the micro influencers that maybe have 15,000 people, but their engagement is like
super high.
Yeah, 70%, 50%.
Yeah, they call like whatever 1,000 true fans, right? If versus a million fans,
that have maybe 0.5% engagement.
Yeah.
So I mean, and like the people, obviously, like the 4 million people or whatever that have 2% engagement. Well, that's probably pretty good for 4 million people. But if you have 10,000 people and you have 2% engagement, that's not really high. So I think that it just depends on these micro influencers. I think they're driving the market, or that there's a new opportunity for that niche.